Meow! Welcome to the PodKat. This is my pod, and I am Kat. It is Sunday, March 22nd, 2020. I am coming to you from Burbank, California. Last night I dreamt I was on safari, and then I started to look around at the people on the tram with me, and I was like, they are so close to me. We're not socially distancing. And it really stressed me out. What kind of dreams are y'all having? Today's question for the audience to chime in on is one my wife wanted me to ask people, which is, what do you wish you knew a month ago? So for today's guest, she has been our number one encourager and supporter. Let me introduce Kayla.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, girl. Who are you and where are you?
I am Kayla. I was one of Kim's college roommates, a million years ago in Texas. And I live in Southeast Texas, a little bit north of Harris County. So, literally the next county north of Harris County is where I live.
Okay. What are your days looking like right now?
It was sort of boring.
What is normal? What is normal for you before this?
Well, I work Tuesday through Saturday. So, and I work in the afternoon, but I leave for work in the early afternoon. So I usually don't do anything before work unless it's stop to get some food or get gas or go pick up a prescription or something. And then Sundays and Mondays are my days off. And then sometimes I'll request days off on the weekends for, concerts or something like that. The normal part is, just the going to work and coming back home. And then the non-normal part is that now all of my social events that I had planned for the past 3 weeks have been canceled.
So you're still going to work?
Yes, I'm still going to work. I work for the sheriff's office.
Okay.
So at the moment, I'm considered essential personnel. I work in the warrants department. So we have to pull the physical hard copies of the warrant whenever the officers have someone pulled over to make sure that the warrant is still good. So someone has to be there to do that.
Yeah, I actually was really curious. My wife and my wife is Kim, who went to college with Kayla, to fill that in for anyone. Kim and I were talking this morning about what it would be like right now if someone were pulled into jail, not prison, but jail, a temporary holding cell, and maybe we can get into that. I don't know if you have any answers or not, but I was really curious about what they would do for the fact that people need to be apart from each other and not in tight spaces right now. But I guess if someone committed a criminal offense, they have to still hold up the law right now.
Yeah, so different counties are doing things differently, so I can't really speak for them. But about 2 weeks ago now, we stopped our transport from other agencies, and Harris County had several confirmed cases before my county did. So primarily we stopped transporting from their jail, because if somebody gets arrested in Harris County and they have an active warrant in Montgomery County, then we'll notify Harris County, hey, we have a warrant for them. Can you keep them in your jail until they're done with your charges, and then we'll come get them.
Okay.
So we put a pause to that. We put a pause to all work travel, so all of our officers and deputies, etc., they were not traveling to go pick up people from other states even, or just even to go to other states for whatever they needed to go for. If it was work-related, they weren't going anymore. Recently, they've implemented a lot of procedures within the jail itself. Everybody, whether it's an attorney or an officer or someone who's been arrested, has their temperature taken and a screening done, to see if they're showing any symptoms or anything before they're accepted into the jail.
Wow. When did that start?
Yeah. Say that again?
When did that start? The taking the temperature and stuff before going into the jail?
About a week ago, I would say.
Okay.
We've always had a screening process. We have a medical screening before people are admitted, just in case.
Really? I never heard that.
They'll say like, oh, like I'm having heart problems or something. Well, even if they're lying, we're not going to be like, oh, you're lying. Like we have to screen them and then send them to the hospital,
Sure.
So, we've kind of had a lot of like back and forth every day for about 3 or 4 days. The county judge was issuing a new order, which kind of like restricted things more and more. So we had a lot of back and forth about whether or not we were accepting new people into the jail or whether we were going to pick people up. So how it currently stands is within our county, we're accepting, everybody that gets arrested essentially, unless they have a medical, reason not to. Like if they have a fever or if they're showing symptoms, then we're obviously not going to bring them into the jail to contaminate the facility.
Sure.
But outside of the county, we now have a list of approved offenses that we will go pick people up on, and they're mostly violent offenses. Like we're not going to go pick people up for drug offenses or theft or traffic tickets.
Okay. Yeah, that was another question I had, so I'm glad you answered that. That really shed a lot of light on that for me. I guess another thing to consider is, like, if someone is symptomatic and is actively ill, they're probably not out committing offenses because they're probably homesick or something. So, I don't know. I know asymptomatic people are another case, but if someone's, like, actually sick right now, they probably don't have time to be committing criminal acts. So
it's been very quiet the past 2 or 3 days at work, especially Friday and Saturday are usually pretty active days. People out at bars are just hanging out, and all the bars are closed in Harris and Montgomery County, so it was pretty much a ghost town coming home from work Friday and Saturday night.
What is your community's response? Have you been to the grocery store? Have you seen the lines? Are you noticing traffic?
So I have been to the store a few times over the past 2 to 3 weeks. There haven't really been lines. I was actually shocked. March 12th, I want to say, I decided, okay, I'm going to stop at the store and just get some stuff that I need anyway. It's 10:30 at night. They're probably not going to be crowded. I was wrong.
I'm surprised they were still open at 10:30. I know a lot of places close at like 7 now.
Yeah, this was 2 weeks ago. This was before they started, like all the stores started shortening their hours.
Yeah.
So it was HEB, and I think their normal hours were like open till midnight or something.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I stopped in there at 10:30 thinking, I'll just run in and out, get like 2 things that I need real quick. It'll be fine. The entire parking lot was packed. The entire store was packed. The shelves were empty. The only bottled water that was left was like the liter and a half single bottles. Like there were no packages or gallon jugs or anything like that. Mm-hmm. No diaper wipes, no toilet paper, paper towels, hand sanitizer, all that stuff was already gone. That was probably the peak of the panic buying at that point.
Okay. So you said that you are still going to work, but otherwise all of your social engagements have been called off. Was that a personal choice, or is that mandated by your county, your state?
It was both. So I had taken a few days off last weekend because I was going to go to some art shows and just hang out with some people and, stuff like that I normally don't get to do because I work on Saturdays. Yeah. And then last Tuesday, the 13th or the 17th, I think it was the 17th because it was St. Patrick's Day, we were supposed to go to the rodeo, and the week before, the rodeo was canceled. Like, again, around like March 11th, 12th, 13th was when things started to get shut down. So they shut down the rodeo because someone had tested positive who had been at the rodeo cook-off a couple weeks before. So they decided, that's a lot of people in a very small space. We should probably put a stop to that.
I heard about that. Yeah, it could just be because my mother-in-law lives in Texas, but I did hear about that rodeo situation.
Yeah, so that was canceled, not by my choice, but I chose on my own to not go to the other things that I had planned to do that previous weekend, because I didn't want to expose myself or other people. And this is, before social distancing was such a huge push. Like, I guess it was just a personal choice. Like, I have people in my life that I don't want to get sick, so I don't want to put myself in a position where I may be exposed to people who are sick and then get my people sick.
Yeah. What are you doing right now to have fun, and how are you caring for yourself right now?
Well, last week, actually, a friend and I had, like, a Google video hangout, like, art date kind of thing. So we just, like, hung out and, like, did art together and had a drink and, chatted and whatnot. So I think I'm probably going to try to implement a little bit more of that. Yesterday, I was actually part of, like, a at-home con is what it was called. It was like an at-home convention, and the guy that facilitated it set up an event on Facebook, and he had some online panels. Like, there was a game, like a Jeopardy game show through Twitch, and someone did, like, a panel about posing for cosplay, and there was one woman who had, like, a short little live video of her products, like, showing how to use them and stuff. So that was really fun.
That's very creative. Yeah, and you're very creative with your art and stuff. So I was wondering if you're having extra time for art right now, or if art is not coming to you at the moment. I know some people are kind of just wanting to potato out and not create. Everyone has a different reaction.
Yeah, I actually am trying to make extra time since I am trying not to go out. And oddly, it has been more inspiring for me. Like, they're silly ideas, but, like, if you don't laugh, you're going to cry, basically. So,
yeah. My wife's birthday and my birthday are in April. And I was like, I haven't done any birthday shopping. And I was like, I think this is a good time for me to get really creative and artsy and come up with some really nice birthday gifts that I've put hours into, because that's what I have right now to give. But yeah. I know that I talk about this with my friend Becca. That episode will come out soon. But we were talking about how, like, a lot of people are saying, what will you do right now to make good with your time? Like, how will you make your time creative and productive, but also not feeling like you have to do that? Like, you don't have to write the great novel right now. It's okay if you want to watch some RuPaul's Drag Race and kind of just care for your own body with food and not stressing. But I do think there's a lot of pressure on people right now that they all have to do the big thing because they now have time for it. But it could be a good mental health boundary for yourself to not say you have to do that just because circumstances are what they are.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a lot of pressure on a lot of people. Like I said, I'm still going to work right now, so pretty much life is as normal, except for, having some issues finding some things at the grocery store and not being able to really go out and hang out with people. But so I definitely, for my own well-being, try not to put that pressure on myself. Even when I do have, like, if I had 4 days off last week, I didn't put pressure on myself to be like, okay, I have to do all these projects I've been putting off. Like, I just kind of hung out and, like, did the laundry and did some art and, hung out with my dogs. Mm-hmm. One day, actually, unplanned, ended up being very productive because I ended up having a dentist appointment and then 2 other errands to run that were in the same area. So that just, like, conveniently worked out for me, but that wasn't something I planned.
Yeah, I also think art doesn't come when you push it. If you sit down and you're like, I mean, that's like, for me, writing papers, I was always like, okay, write, nothing's coming. Like, but if I was like, holy cow, I've got 20 minutes before this paper is due, I was like, like I would like hammer it out. And so I think that whatever it is, like, you have to be enjoying what you're creating. And if your art is like escapism for you right now, or you feel like you're doing something meaningful with it, that could be a reason for doing it. But if you're doing it because you have to, or you're trying to push it out. But I feel like I don't feel like I'm at a good place until like I've gone for a run in the morning and then I fed myself. And even like getting dressed right now, not just staying in my pajamas, like, okay, now my day is ready. I've done some cleaning. Okay, let me make the podcast or do something. But if it's like all consuming, that you have to, I don't know. If that
it was really tempting to not get dressed, but I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to semi-professionally do this. Like, they're pajama pants and a tank top, but I have clothes on. I washed my face. I brushed my teeth.
Tuxedo t-shirt, yeah. I homeschooled until high school, so I don't know if maybe I'm uniquely prepared for this, but, like, being productive in my own home is something that I was conditioned as a child. So I don't know. It's interesting now that everyone is homeschooled, how that will come out to be. Go on.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, growing up, I was always the person that got dressed on the weekends. Like, I have a very casual style anyway, so it was just like jeans and a t-shirt, but I couldn't understand people that just like laid around in their pajamas all day, like especially the ones they'd slept in. Like I was always more in a funk if I didn't get dressed. Mm-hmm. And I might still just lay around the house all day and like watch TV, but at least I was wearing real clothes.
Yeah, for comfort, I think when I get home from work every day, sometimes I work lunch and then I get home at like 5 and I'm just so exhausted. I take a shower and then I do put myself in my pajamas and my robe for like, okay, I just am going to potato it out and watch TV, and this is comfort. But if I start my day like that, like if I work a dinner shift, if I sleep in, I don't get out of my pajamas, it's just not a good day. Even if I have the same number of hours off, if they're switched to earlier, it feels like you do kind of need to start your day by putting on a pair of jeans. And then comfy can be for later, but... even before this, like a year or two ago, that was a big self-care thing for me, was like putting on makeup, even when not loads of makeup, I just mean mascara, like some kind of looking yourself in the mirror and saying, how do I want to present myself today? Because I'm worth that amount of care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even before like self-care was a buzzword, like that was a big thing for me too. Like, I don't wear a lot of makeup either, but, some days you just look in the mirror and you're like, oh God, like, let me do something so I can feel better about myself.
Yeah, when you show up at work and people say, you look tired, or what's different? That's when I'm like, okay, all moisturize, people.
Right? I forgot my mascara. Leave me alone. I'm not sick.
My mentality usually is to do nothing. That way, when I do make an effort to put on makeup, people are like, wow, here she comes, Miss America, the beauty queen. So I like to set the bar low. But...
yeah, it's a good plan.
I was reading Tan France from Queer Eye's memoir once, and he talks a little bit about how, he's Mr. Fashion and this and that, but that he was with his boyfriend, not the person he's with now, but his boyfriend, he felt like, oh, well, I'm just tired and I'm going to get comfortable and slump around the house. And then his boyfriend was kind of saying like, hey, I feel like you give your best self to the rest of the world. And then when I see you, it's kind of like low energy. And it's not so much that he was like, you dress slobby. It was more just like your whole energy changes. And when you change into your comfy clothes and you just become like, whoa, it felt like you weren't giving your best to that person. And so I think about that with like, I live with my wife and she does not care what I look like. I wake up next to her fresh-faced and, looking real tired. And yet, when I do try to put on makeup or dress up nice, I think of it as like, oh, bringing my best to that person the same way I would if I were going on a coffee date with a friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So I try to think about that message of like bringing my best self to that person, and that can help with your appearance can make you feel different, and you really do feel like, oh, I just got a cool new haircut, like that level of confidence.
Yeah, or if it's been like 4 days and you haven't changed your clothes or taken a shower, like sometimes you just have to make yourself, and then even if you don't really want to, because you'll feel better afterwards, even if you just put clean pajamas on.
Showering makes me feel so good and alive. I feel like healthy and able to take on things.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to ask at what point you realized the severity of this COVID-19 pandemic, because I know that based on people I've talked to in Texas, the reaction was a little slower there, and it could have been because it is a large state and it's more spread out than big cities. But I feel like you were aware of severity early on. So what caught your attention?
I think partially having friends in, kind of like the ground zero states over here, like Washington and New York.
Yeah.
Particularly Washington because of the nursing home situation. One of my really good friends lives there, and she's a nurse, and so she's been posting about this pretty much from the beginning. And then, so I was kind of already like conscious of it and kind of like watching out. And then when Harris County, Houston is a huge city and the county is just gigantic. When they started reporting confirmed cases, I started to get concerned because my county directly borders Harris County. And like I said, our agency was picking up people and interacting with people in that county. And so I started to get worried at that point, but not like as concerned as I got later on. When they canceled the rodeo, and then when my job decided, okay, we're going to stop all work travel, we're going to stop transporting from other agencies, that's when I kind of started to dig a little deeper and do a little more research into this and figure out what I could do and what other people could do to kind of help slow this down and like really bring a light to like the severity of it, because for a while a lot of people were just like, oh, just really casual about it. And I'm sort of try to think of myself as a logical, rational person. Like I don't or overreact to things. And then I have people in my life that are like very lackadaisical about it, like, or lackadaisical. I never can say that right. But anyway,
I think we have the same good friend in Seattle, and I think that person would be interesting to be on the podcast and to hear from a nurse's perspective. So
I have thought about that. It probably wouldn't hurt to, see if she's interested. I know right now she's probably like incredibly overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because, she does put herself out there a lot, and that takes a lot of emotional and physical energy to deal with people that are just blatantly refusing to acknowledge this,
Yeah, I kind of, maybe this analogy is crud, but I think about like when you are the only LGBT person in someone's life, and then everyone has like questions for you about stuff that has nothing to do, like I identify as gay, and then people ask me like things about people who are transgender, and I'm like, well, not my experience, so I can't speak to that, but it feels like sometimes you're the only face that people know for certain issues. So I feel like if you were someone who had any knowledge of disease, viruses, healthcare, medicine, people would be like, how serious is this? Are we overreacting? Are we underreacting? Help us, tell us.
Yeah. Or they're the opposite, and they're the ones that are, arguing with you, telling you that you don't know what you're talking about, even though you're the one who's an expert in the field.
Yeah, that's so true. Back to the LGBT thing. I love when people explain to me that, they really...
You're not really gay. Okay. Thank you for that. Bye.
Yeah, that's always funny when people are like, well, I've heard this. And you're like, again, I don't speak for everybody. All I can ever give is my experience.
Yeah, I guess I'm fortunate that I'm not an expert in any of the field, any of those fields, or really anything for that matter. So, I've just been kind of sharing the information that I found to be credible. And, kind of just trying to debunk myths or misinformation, really, not even myths, just misinformation.
To be a voice of reason, I think, right now.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, yes. That's what I've been trying to do.
What are plans that you have in place? It sounds like financially, maybe you don't have to worry about your income, but do you have any plans that have come about because of this? Maybe in caring for your own health, or... Yeah.
Not really, not any more than usual, I don't think. Yeah. Even if we do get downgraded to non-essential personnel and my job says, okay, don't come to work for the next 2 weeks, we'll still either be able to use our paid time off, like our sick pay and vacation pay, or the county will give us hazard pay, because they've done that during the previous hurricanes and floods that Texas has had the past 3 years. So this is, similar situation. It's a crisis, disaster, pandemic, even though it's not, a flood.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky in that aspect that even if I do have to stay home, I'll still be getting a paycheck. So I'm just trying to, just stay aware, I guess, and also not go out for non-essential things. I have been, the past few days, making some purchases online from some artists that were affected by all of the cancellations and stuff. But I'm still trying to be wise about that also. Yes, I want to help those people out, but I don't want to put myself in a bind doing it.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people who have felt guilt about literally profiting from this, like people who are getting amazing job opportunities to work online right now, and they're like, it makes me feel icky that I'm making money. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't think you caused this disease, unless you did, in which case let's talk. But
right?
If you are able to profit right now, not at the expense of other people, but if the job exists and you can get money, girl, take it. That's great. Do it. I'm so happy for you. And I right now I'm feeling a bitter and resentment-y because I can't work because I'm a server. So my restaurant is takeout only. But my takeout people have told me that they're getting $200 tips. And I'm like, whoa. Well, that's great. But I know that a lot of people are buying gift cards to support restaurants right now. But I'm like, what about the people who are out of work who are not getting any of those money? But I'm so, so happy that my takeout friends are getting by, and their success is not my detriment. But I do feel the same way, where I want to really support artists right now. But I also am like, okay, I can't lose too much of my savings either.
Yeah. But you can promote their work. You don't have to purchase it,
Love that. That's a great suggestion.
Liking and sharing and all that stuff. There's also, I don't know if you've seen the links or not, but there are a couple of links on Facebook specifically that I've seen for people within the restaurant and bar industries that are, some of them are emergency funds from the government, and then some of them are one is a website that you can submit your info to be added to a list. It's an online tip jar. So I'll try to find that later and send it to you if you haven't seen it yet.
Wow, no, I've not
that might be useful to other people as well.
Yeah, seriously. Well, I wanted to thank you for your excitement about the podcast, and you've been very supportive from the beginning. So I guess I wanted to ask you to honestly give some feedback on if we've delivered the content that you were expecting, or was there more that you wanted? When you heard that I was doing this, what got you excited about it? And then what have you liked or wanted more of?
Yeah, so I don't think I had any expectations, which is, always a good thing. You're not going to be disappointed if you don't expect anything. But after listening to your first episode, which was kind of just like your introductory episode, you kind of set the stage for what you wanted to do, what people should expect. And then, you've just been having conversations with your friends, and it's been really helpful to hear insight from other people. I forget who the first person you talked to was, but I know one of your friends is an accountant. Yeah. You recently talked to a new mom. Whoever the first one was, I don't remember what their
her name's Aaliyah.
Was.
She's a long distance friend of mine for a long time.
That's what it was.
She works in international relations. So.
Right. Yeah. For some reason, that episode really resonated with me, but it's been a few days since I listened to it, so I can't really pinpoint anything about it, but it's just been nice, like you said, to kind of peek into other people's lives, how things are going in their communities, how they're dealing with things. And, just kind of just
cool.
What's going on with other people right now.
Yeah, I appreciate
encouraging and helpful.
I appreciate that feedback. And I'm learning a lot too about I want to make sure that I keep the conversation going, but I want to be really conscious that I'm not interrupting, because people can't hear when we talk over each other. So I'm learning ways to navigate that, since I don't really know what I'm doing. But what questions do you think I should be asking people?
I think maybe, I mentioned, those resources for, the bartenders and stuff, maybe if they're aware of any online resources that they can share with people would be a good thing. Or even, I think I've heard that some of the, order-ahead grocery queues are probably going to be, backed up. People are having to, order, 3 weeks out or something. You can't just order groceries for next week. You have to order groceries for 3 weeks from now. Mm. I don't know if anybody has solutions to that, but, just if anybody has any resources to share that would be helpful for people right now, probably.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is. I feel a lot of times we're oh, I heard about this, but I could be better about adding those actual links in. My friend's a DJ, and DJ Maestro, look him up. He's amazing. He DJ'd my wedding. Love him. But he was saying right now that the company's kind of in a tough bind. And so he was saying, if you want to book for a later date, he's giving a 10% off discount. So I know that a lot of small owned businesses or family stores or artists are trying to do those deals where they're saying, hey, if you can help me in the short run buy my groceries and have faith in us, we will deliver that product in the future, even at a discounted price. So that's a good point.
This is sort of related, but also sort of not, in that vein of small businesses and stuff. And it's silly because right now, a tattoo shop is probably the most sterile place besides a hospital that you can be. And I actually did get a tattoo about 2 weeks ago or so, right before, right when all this stuff started, businesses shutting down and stuff. And one of the artists in the shop was running a special for, I want to say 50% off tattoos for people that worked in restaurants, to help them, obviously to help him get money, but also to help them, get some art in their life right now for a less expensive price.
I also heard
that was pretty cool.
That's so beautiful. I heard of tattoo shops that had to close, and they donated their sterile equipment to hospitals because they have masks. They have a lot of stuff that hospitals need right now. Yes, I thought that was really cool. Who should I talk to next? Whose experience would you like to hear from right now?
Well, like we said, our mutual nurse friend in Seattle, but also, I feel she's very overwhelmed right now, so she may have to be postponed for a while. But yeah, maybe someone, in the foreground of law enforcement, maybe some, actual, deputies or law enforcement officers, if you know anybody. Because I'm in the background, I work in the office. I don't really interact with the public, and I really only talk to our dispatchers and the officers on the phones. So I don't really know what's going on with them out in the field, except for kind of what I hear like secondhand.
Yeah, I had not. I mean, those are questions that I only just now started to think about today because I knew we were going to be talking, but it hadn't really occurred to me before about the police experience right now. I know that I want to balance this out with like science-y, what's going on, that sort of stuff, also with like process feelingsy sort of stuff, and I think I want to talk to a counselor soon.
Oh yeah, that would be really good.
Maybe about the topic of trauma in relation to pandemic, because I think a lot of people who have experienced trauma right now, who have previously experienced trauma, are feeling right now like either re-traumatized, that they're like, I can't go through this again, or they're feeling like, oh, I've got this. I've gone through so much and I feel like a strong survivor, and I know I'm going to be okay because I've been through stuff before. So that could be an interesting conversation.
I've seen a lot of posts on Facebook about like, oh, people with anxiety, you know, like people that don't have it. Now you guys know how we feel every day. And like people with anxiety are thriving right now because this is, you know, how they always feel and how they always act. And so now like the general public is, you know, like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Or even I've had a lot of empathy of understanding. I never, like, germophobia, OCD, that's not something I think about at all. And it was pointed out to me in college that I constantly touch my eyes, and I didn't notice that at all, but I'm rubbing my eyes all day, every day, like just because I have allergies. And so then I was like, wow, I am always touching my face. And then in the restaurant, my boss has to say a lot, like, hey, if you touch your hair, if you touch your face, you have to wash your hands. Just forever. That the last 6 years I've been hearing that.
Yeah.
But I don't really think too much about that in my own life of like, I'm touching money, where has it been? I'm touching surfaces, where have they been? But if you had germophobia, you know, some sort of OCD, and that was your real all-time experience, that's exhausting. Like having gone through the airport last week and wondering each thing I touched, is it deadly? Like that is so exhausting. No wonder that wears you out.
I've definitely upped my hand sanitizer game. And you'd think working in a place like a jail, in a sheriff's office, like I would have been more aware of that. And I was. Like, we have hand sanitizer every, 2 feet in our office, and we constantly have, Lysol wipes and cans of Lysol. So we're always disinfecting between each other anyway. But, I've definitely amped up my practices since all of this and am far more aware of how often I touch my face, you know, and whether or not I washed my hands before I ate my food. Like, oh no, I should probably be a lot more conscious of this in the future. Yeah,
the hygiene I followed as a kid has far since fallen off the wagon of good practices. So I think we'll all be cleaner people after this.
I hope so. I mean, you know, a lot of us were before, but everyone has room for improvement.
What is a positive story that you've heard, anything that you wanted to share that's kind of brighten your day, or something nice that can make us smile?
Good question. Well, first of all, like I said, all of the online conventions and sales and stuff that people are putting together has been really awesome to see. But also all of the zoos that have been live streaming their animals and posting cute little videos of the penguins taking a little tour around the aquarium, you know, and just cute videos and pictures and stuff people have been sharing on Facebook. I've been sharing a lot of information, but I've also been trying to share a lot of things like that to brighten people's day. And so I guess those things, the things that businesses that have had to close their doors to the public, they're sharing virtual tours and stuff like that, so that people are still able to experience those things even though they can't leave their house. That's been a really nice thing to see.
That is heartwarming. Is there something that you're looking forward to doing again when life returns to normal?
Yeah, I know I keep harping on the art thing, but art shows have been a big thing for me this year, something that I just decided that I was going to actively participate in this year. And it just kind of came to a screeching halt. the first couple months were great, and then all of a sudden, everything I had planned for the next 2 months got canceled.
Yeah. Yeah, I love art shows. My family's all, my mom's a photographer. My sister does a lot of mixed medium, but painting mostly. And it's so cool to see their stuff. And their stuff has been in galleries. And I love the experience of going to galleries. And we always end up trading a bunch of our art and talking to the other artists. So it's such a good time. My apartment is so filled with stuff from art shows because it's just the most fun.
Yeah, you get to, there's the social interaction, and then also, like, just the visuals, and it's a good time.
Do you have any recommendations for people in quarantine right now of books or movies or games, things that people can check out for fun?
I'm trying to think, like, I listen to audiobooks, like, to and from, and sometimes while I'm at work a lot.
Yeah.
So I definitely have been just consuming those a lot. But one of the series that is pretty fun that I've been listening to recently, it's called Lockwood Co. And it's kind of like a psychic detective agency, but more to do with ghosts and the supernatural. But there's a lot of humor in it.
Cool.
And interaction, between the characters and stuff. So that's a really fun one.
Would you repeat the name of that?
The series is called Lockwood Co.
Okay. Lockwood Co.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then as far as TV, like, I've been going back and forth between, like, Netflix and YouTube, and I forget that I have subscriptions to, like, Disney Plus and Hulu and Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So I've been watching a lot of Schitt's Creek lately.
Oh, my wife likes that.
I'm sorry?
My wife really likes it. I've not seen it yet, though.
Yeah, I'm super late to the game. I think I'm finally, like, on season 4 or something. And everyone's like, oh, my gosh, I love this show so much. And, like, the first season, you watch it and you're just like, but why? But it's really good. It gets very heartwarming in later seasons and episodes. So, yeah, those are probably audiobooks, and that TV show are the things I've been most consuming, and then, YouTube.
Yeah. YouTube. I love it. I feel like it's more than just, like, enjoying the content. It also feels like I'm checking in on my friends. Like, it feels like real people, and I really have loved getting to see. And then I subscribe to a lot of people on YouTube who are differently abled than myself, or they might have hearing aids, or maybe they are in a wheelchair, and that's not an experience that I know a lot about. So I really love using YouTube as an education tool, as well as just, like, you kind of forget about it, honestly. Like, I subscribe to a lot of trans people, and then after a while you just, like, totally forget. You're just like, oh yeah, I love Jessica Kellgren Frozard. She has the most upbeat, I love her, like, vintage looks. She has these beautiful 1950s vintage outfits she wears every single day. And then I forget, oh, I first subscribed to her because she was LGBT and deaf and in a wheelchair. But, like, I don't think about any of those things until she posts a video that's like, oh, my hand is currently paralyzed because sometimes that's what happens to my body, but I still need to do my makeup. And so she'll still, like, put on her makeup with her hand unable to move. Or she'll put up a sign language video. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that she was hard of hearing. But you just forget about people's differences, and you're excited to, like, check in and connect with them.
Yeah, if you could, like, link her channel, that'd be great. I'd love to check that out.
She's a dream. She is so positive and happy, and just everything is, like, pleasant and adorable. It's like you're in Wonderland. So I will link that for sure.
I've subscribed to a lot of people from, like, way back when they first started YouTube, like 6-7 years ago, before it kind of exploded into what it is today. So I definitely have that connection. Like, I feel like I know these people, even though you really don't, Yeah,
but there's a lot that you grew up with, and it's been fun. I love seeing, I mean, I was watching Jenna Marbles in 2006, 2007, and then you're like, oh my gosh, my baby's all grown up. So.
Yep, and then, like, you know, the original, like, My Drunk Kitchen videos, like...
Girl,
all
yes.
that stuff.
Those are very important to me. So.
Right. Remember your roots.
Yeah, seriously. Well, I really appreciate your time today. Was there anything that you wanted to address that we didn't get around to?
Not necessarily. I think it's been pretty repeated that, you know, practice social distancing, don't go out unless you need to, you know, practice good hygiene, all that jazz.
Yeah. Take it seriously, guys.
Take it seriously. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I didn't ask you today's question. Was there anything a month ago that you wish you could tell yourself?
Maybe buy some more water. Like, I went to the grocery store right before things really started, like, showing up in the news and stuff about how fast this was spreading and how serious it was getting. So before the panic buying really reached its peak, and the water that I normally buy was pretty sparse, and so I just got, like, 3 jugs of it. And I didn't think anything about it. I was like, I'll just come back next week and get some more. And then next week there wasn't any.
Do you not have a Brita filter?
I don't, but I'm going to get one, just like one of the pitchers, you know, that you can fill up from your sink.
Yeah.
But yeah, currently I don't have one. Yeah. And I drink water a lot. So it's definitely something I probably should have bought like 3 years ago.
Yeah, water is my best friend. I love it. I'm the joke of my work because anytime someone has a headache or a stomach ache or foot pain, I'm always like, have you tried water?
Put some Windex on it.
It's good. Yeah, yep, that's me on the Windex bit, spraying it on everybody. Have some water. Solution for everything. Well, love to all listening. Take care of yourselves and others as you're able. Times are strange, but you're stranger. No, wait.
No, I think that's true.
Times are hard, but you're harder and stronger. You're going to make this through this, you guys. Thank you for listening, and thank you to my beautiful guests today. Do you want to have the final meow?
Sure. Meow.
Nailed it.